Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Almost There, a Twisted Tale novel. I am your host, Zach, and welcome back to Disney Magic Zach here on YouTube. And, thank you for joining me. Today, we are carrying on with our tale. We're on chapter 7, and things are getting interesting. Tiana thought there was something following her in last chapter. And this chapter is entitled Naveen, so we're going to get a little look at Naveen, I think, in this episode, which is very cool. So let's jump right into it. Chapter 7. The pungent aroma of coal fire and burning sugarcane permeated the air surrounding the Bush Sugar's massive sugar mill. The red brick building stood out boldly among the smaller structures along the banks of the Mississippi River, its prominence a physical testimony to its significance to the local economy. Naveen roamed about the production floor, checking in with the workers at the heart of the operation to make sure they had everything they needed. He came upon one of the contraptions. He still didn't know what they were officially called, when dark molasses percolated, gurgling and splattering over the edges of the large copper pots. Puffs of white smoke plumed from the vessels and lingered in the air above their heads. The foreman had tried to explain the process that was used to turn the willowy stalks of cane that were brought in by the truckload into crystallized sugar and molasses, but Naveen was still a bit shaky on the mechanics of it all. He flagged down one of the workers he'd befriended since he'd begun working here the year before. "Hey Jacob, what's this called again?" Naveen asked. "Why, that's the boiler," the man replied, a smile stretching across his soot-covered face. "Oh yes, thank you." He would have to remember that if he wanted to convince the others that he was serious about the sugar business. And he was. He was determined to learn everything about the industry. He preferred being on the factory floor with the workers over sitting behind a desk. Naveen wasn't as naive as many thought him to be. He knew Mr. LeBoeuf had only offered him this job because of his friendship with Charlotte. He didn't even have an official title or any real duties. He wanted to prove to everyone that he had more to offer than just his charm. He had yet to figure out exactly what that more was, of course, but that's why he was here now. Naveen pointed at the thermometer on the side of the massive kettle. So when the temperature reaches, piercing whistle rent the air. Naveen jumped back. His hand shot up in the air. It was not me. That was why he never touched any of the equipment. He knew his limitations. "You might want to get out of the way, boss," Jacob said. "I am not the boss," Naveen called out. But no one could hear him above the ruckus that ensued as the men set about extracting the heated liquid from the boiler. He stood back and watched, fascinated by the choreography of it all. It was like a graceful dance, the way the factory workers moved about the equipment, each confident in his role. Observing the back-breaking work these men put in day after day gave Naveen a greater appreciation for the sugar he'd always enjoyed, yet taken for granted. He now recognised that he'd taken a lot of things for granted. It was easy to do when you spent most of your life having everything handed to you. Did he miss living in the lap of luxury? Sometimes. But if his parents sent passage for him to return to Maldoni that very day, with the promise of giving him everything he asked for, Naveen would turn them down. He liked his new life he'd built for himself in New Orleans. There was something very freeing about earning his own money and not being under his parents' thumb. Except now it felt as if he was under Mr. LeBoeuf's. His boss didn't make demands the way his parents had. But how could Naveen ever feel that he was earning his own way with a job that had been given to him as a favour? He wanted to prove to Mr. LeBoeuf that he could be an asset to this company. And well, maybe he wanted to prove that to himself as well. He wasn't sure what had sparked this new ambition, so he couldn't shake it and didn't think he wanted to anyway. Naveen shoved his hands in his pocket and tried to fight off the familiar uneasy feeling that settled in the pit of his stomach, like he was forgetting something important. It wasn't the first time he had to brush off such feelings in recent weeks. Something seemed off. He entered the milling room and leant against the wall, giving a wide berth to the sharp blades that swung like pendulums from huge pulleys, slicing the pulpy cane into shreds. He pulled his trusty notepad from his back pocket and scribbled a reminder to research how the boiler worked. As he made his way to the rear of the room, he caught the tail end of a conversation between two workers who were manoeuvring a bushel of sugarcane stalks onto the massive scale. "Excuse me, gentlemen," Naveen said. "What were you just saying about the candy company?" worker took his hat off and fidgeted with it, his expression suddenly apprehensive. Naveen did his best to mask his exasperation. He wanted these men to like him, to think of him as one of the guys, but because of his proximity to Mr. LaBeouf, they treated him as if he were in charge. "I'm just curious," Naveen said. "Well, my brother worked over at Dugus's. Said they had some kind of falling out with their sugar supplier. They may be looking for a new one." "Really?" His gaze shifted from the worker to the milling machine and back. Dugus's, they make those little chocolates with the marshmallow centre, yes? I see them everywhere." The man nodded. "Yes, sir." Naveen began to pace back and forth between the scale and the nearby bushels of sugar cane, waiting to be weighed. His pulse pounded like a thunderous drumbeat within his chest as an idea began to take shape. LaBeouf Sugars was the king of sugar in the South. Dugus's was the king of candy. A partnership between those two companies could be the start of an empire. And if he was the one to broker the deal, he turned to the two workers. "Can you keep the news of this, what is the saying, under wraps?" Naveen asked. "Sure thing, boss," the man said, "but this isn't just a rumour. My brother works there. He knows." No, I believe you," Naveen said. "I just want to investigate a little on my own. And it is just Naveen, no boss here." "Right, boss." The man tipped his hat to him. Naveen let out a sigh. To his frustrations, his fellow mill workers refusing to treat him like a regular guy was quickly replaced with his excitement over this new development. This was his chance. If he could convince Dugas Candy Company to partner with LaBeouf Sugars, he could prove to everyone that he belonged here and it was capable of doing more than simply being a friend to the real boss's daughter. "Naveen!" His head popped up. Had he conjured Charlotte just by thinking about her? "Naveen, where are you?" He quickly made it out of the milling room just in time to see Charlotte LaBeouf round the corner at one of the huge boilers, her blonde curls bouncing with each step. "Charlotte, what are you doing here? You know it is not safe for you on the factory floor." "Well, you're here," she said. She grabbed him by the hand and started for the winding staircase that led to the upper floor. "But I don't like all this grime and dust anyway." Naveen followed her to the suite of offices that lined the left side of the building. Mr. LaBeouf's office was the biggest, of course, but Naveen's wasn't much smaller. In a way, he couldn't understand why the factory workers had yet to warm up to him. They all shared a lunchroom that equalled the size of the office he had had for himself. Charlotte pushed through the door and plopped into the chair behind Naveen's mostly empty desk. She pointed at him. "I need you to be my date for tonight," Charlotte said. "Charlotte," Naveen rubbed the bridge of his nose. "We have been over this, have we not? You and I are friends. We should not mess that up by—" He ducked just in time to miss the fountain pen she pitched at his head. "Hey, that is dangerous." "I'm not talking about a real date, Naveen," she said with an exasperated huff. "Daddy is bringing 2 members of the city council to Tiana's supper club tonight, and Mr. Dubois will be probably bringing his son Reuben with him." She made a gagging motion. "He's been trying to get with me since we were in school together, and I don't want him getting any ideas." "So you want to lie to him?" "Yes," she answered, without the slightest hint of remorse. Naveen chuckled at her audacity, but it was what he had come to expect of Charlotte. Once she had decided to no longer pursue him as a husband, she had become an unlikely friend. In fact, she was his best friend. He wasn't sure he would have made it through this past year in New Orleans without her, and not just because she had got him this cushy job at her father's sugar mill. It turned out he and Charlotte had more in common than Naveen first realised, with both of them coming from significant wealth. Although Charlotte didn't seem interested in proving that she could earn her keep the same way, he felt compelled to lately. She was more than happy to spend her father's fortune, but their wealthy families were only one of the similarities he and Charlotte shared. They both loved to dance and had spent the past year cutting a rug at dance halls all around New Orleans. It took him a little longer to catch on to the latest moves, but Charlotte was a surprisingly patient teacher. She also shared his love of art. She joined him at the museum whenever there was a new exhibition on display. And Tiana. They both shared a particular interest in Tiana, though his interest in her was decidedly different from Charlotte's. "Well," Charlotte asked with a tinge of frustration, "are you going to be my date tonight, or what? A night of good food, jazz music, and the chance to see Tiana again?" Naveen gave her his best smile. "What time do we leave?" Alrighty, and that was chapter 7. So we finally caught up with Naveen a little bit, which is fun. Yeah, which is exciting. Naveen is probably one of my favourite characters from the series. But yeah, super excited to see where this goes. It's all coming together. It's Mardi Gras weekend. Naveen gets to see Tiana. And let's just see where it goes. Let's just see where it goes. Well, thank you so much for joining me here today. Hope you have enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, share, and subscribe. All that fun stuff. And I will see you all very soon in the next new episode. Peace.